I shot this about 10 times now. This is very hard to talk when nobody's in here and you're just talking to a camera. But I'll just kind of go over the equipment I have. I was just kind of out here organizing, and I figured I'd go through some of the things with anybody that watches this. Uh, if it looks like a disaster in here, always in the background, that's because it is. It's like you can't get rid of anything because all of a sudden one day you'll need it. And you just get more and more stuff and you run out of room to put stuff. So uh, I just try and keep it into somewhat of a functional disaster. But anyway, I'll go through the stuff. I guess we'll start with the power hammer. All right, this is my power hammer. It's a carry hard. It was made about 120 years ago. They're generally driven off of a line shaft with a flat belt that will go right here. I put in electric motor on this one. It's a 1 horse, just with a single V belt. It works fine. When you depress the treadle down here, it pulls this whole drum up against this, and I put this wooden disc in here. This is just originally supposed to be metal on metal with nothing in here. And you're supposed to oil it through these holes on the outside, but it tends to get a little grabby, and it works better if you can slip it more with this wood disc in here. I still oil it. This thing runs on oil. You got oil ports everywhere, like all these little holes. Those are all oil ports. You got them everywhere. And also all these grease cups to grease this crankshaft and everything. Uh, there's some repairs done to this in the past years. I don't know how well you can see it, but on the other side, this whole piece was busted off. So they have a strap welded across here to keep it all together. And this part right here is a big crack. That's why this bolt is here to hold it together. But I'm assuming it's been like that for a very long time and it hasn't caused me any problems. Uh, the slides have worn so much that somebody's welded these metal straps on the inside over here. I put in a lighter spring because it had a really heavy spring in it. I resurfaced and redressed the dies because they didn't even touch each other right. There's a big gap on one side. And there's a copper shim on the bottom die. Kept walking and now it's been fine. But this thing is driven off of this crankshaft right here. You can adjust your stroke of your ram with this nut here. You can make this longer, which will give you a longer stroke. Or you can adjust this bar right here. These two bolts loosen up and you can slide this thing back, which will give you more of a stroke. Other than that, yeah. Next we have a coal forge. I like forging with coal or solid fuel more than gas. Uh, a gas forger, they have their uses. Like if you're doing production things, it's easier. You don't have to worry about burning your metal or anything. But coal forge, you can fit much bigger things. You can only fit in your gas forge how big your forge chamber is. But this has a fire pit from Centaur Forge, and you got your clinker breaker in the bottom of it. You got my air, it's got a squirrel cage blower on it off of like a bathroom vent fan, probably most likely. But you can turn that on. You got your air control here. It's closed, and that opens it up. This coal here is like bituminous coal. It's soft. This is not a very good quality. Couple of gas forges. This is a little one I probably use the most. It's probably better suited to knife making and blade forging. It's got a very small burn chamber. I don't really like it. forced air. You got a small burner right there, or small blower right there going through, so it's a forced air burner. It's kind of loud. It kicks off a lot of heat, especially in the summertime. It's lined with kaolin wool, and then it's got a refractory on the outside of the kaolin wool. This is a treadle hammer. Kind of gives you the option of using both your hands and running with your foot. This is the first big piece of equipment I bought. Some guy had made it in his garage. Bought it for a couple $100. When I first got it, it was more of a swing arm type. And I changed it over to inline. But you know, you can hold your piece, hold your top tooling, run this with your foot. The only problem is it gets stuck way at the bottom down there like that. Sometimes. That's why I have different blocks. It's usually not a problem. I can put a bigger block here, and when you have a piece there, it's fine, but it's just all the way down, it'll get stuck. And moving on to this. This is Hopkins #2 screw press. It's not a fly press. It has a slower pitch on the screw, so it doesn't move as fast, but you get more tonnage out of it. They weren't really designed for blacksmithing. They were called die presses and try presses. Tool rooms used to use them to test out toolings and things like that because you can get a feel for it. I really like it. I'm looking for a #3 now, so you have more space under here, but they are huge, and they make this thing look like a tiny toy. This thing weighs like 1,800 pounds. Put it in here with no equipment. The only thing I did to this was I put this arm here so you can lock this out so it won't spin down on you. And then I came up with this plate and tooling holding system so you can put different tooling in there. But I use that thing all the time. It's pretty cool. Then moving on to anvils. When I first started out, I used the same, you know, brake drum forge everybody starts with and piece of railroad track right here. That was my first anvil. And then this Colombian right here is the first anvil I bought. That was, I don't know, 15 years ago. It's about a 100-pound anvil. I paid a couple $100 for it at the time. That's before everything was really exploding and getting expensive. I have another anvil that I was given by my neighbor. He works in a scrapyard. That one's an old Goldie. Right now it's decoration in our bar right now. Because it's an old anvil. It's from 1847. That one's about 220 pounds. And I got this guy at a farm auction. This is old Peterite from what I can tell. It's about 350, 400 pounds. It's nice having a big anvil to work on because you can set stuff places, but at the same time, the horn is really big. So if you punch a hole, like you got to make a bick or a horn for your Hardy, and you're kind of, it's nice, but it limits you. So it's nice to have a smaller horn to work things on. And another bad thing is, well, one, your Hardy hole ain't square because this is an old handmade anvil. And two, this Hardy shank is like 1 3/16 inch and a quarter. Trying to make all your shanks and tooling for that is so much harder than just having like on this one. It's like an inch on this Colombian, so you can just buy your standard 1 inch stock and just cut it and weld something together. Whereas this, you have to forge it down because it's right in between 1 1/4 inch and 1 3/16. And then when you're making tooling, like you're trying to upset it to have your shank like forged in there, it's that much more steel and that much more work to do that. But you know, everything has its trade-off. So, and when I first got it, it had a bunch of K's, like all these marks on here were from previous owners. It had a whole bunch of K's stamped on it, and I just from working on it, most of them kind of went away. You can faintly see some on there once in a while, but you know, that's what you get with stuff that's 100 years old, probably. So, yeah, this has been really weird talking to nobody. It's really cold out here. I had the heater running, but it's kind of hard to have it on and film a video. If anybody has any other questions about anything I have or do, I guess just write them down and I'll try to respond to them. I look at all the comments and try to respond to them. Our next project, or my next project is this sign bracket. I drew it up. I started working on it. Started doing the scroll spot, and I was trying to record and explain what I was doing, and it was really weird. And so I thought I would start with a video, maybe make things a little easier on myself, trying to talk to nobody in here. I can't say I'm going to try and talk on every video because filming is just trying to film and do this stuff is hard enough, and then trying to talk and explain things is even harder. And you would not believe how hard it makes things. Uh, so, anyway, yeah, if anybody has any questions, I will try to answer them as best as I can. Anyway, Happy New Year, everyone. Thank you.